The day my uncle kicked me out, the Florida sky didn't just thunder. It exploded. A violent downpour crashed down like punishment. Lightning ripped across the clouds. Wind howled through the palm trees lining the driveway, and then my backpack flew through the air and hit the ground with a wet smack, thrown like garbage into the street. "No niece of mine is going to waste her potential on some low-level tech job," he shouted, his voice rising over the storm as he crushed the resignation letter I'd left on his desk at the family accounting firm. His fury echoed across the coral-colored stucco walls of our Tampa estate. "We are a family of professionals, Camilla. Doctors, CPAs, executives, not IT support." I watched my backpack land in a puddle, the water splashing up like the final slap to my dignity. Inside it was my laptop, my journals, and every last piece of comfort from the only home I'd ever known. But it wasn't just about the things. It was the way he looked at me, like I had become a stranger. "Tio, please," I said quietly, my voice nearly drowned by the rain. "The entry-level job at FinSafe is just a foot in the door. I've got a roadmap." "A roadmap?" He laughed, harsh and sharp. "Camila Vega, you had a future. The partner promotion at the firm. The engagement to Paul Ramirez. A clean, respectable path. Not this ridiculous startup fantasy." My aunt hovered in the doorway, her fingers nervously twisting the edge of her silk blouse. "Paul's family invited us to brunch on Sunday. He still wants to talk to you." "I called off the engagement because I want my own career," I replied, firmer now. "Tia, I don't want to marry into stability. I want to build it." That's when my uncle's face went cold. "You're throwing away a Wharton finance degree to answer help desk tickets and play with code?" If he'd read even a single page of my business plan, he would have seen that job was my way into FinSafe's infrastructure, so I could learn how their systems worked, so I could build something better. But he never listened. "Go," he said, voice like a slammed door. "You want to chase nonsense? Fine, but don't expect us to catch you when it fails." "Mateo," my aunt whispered. He didn't even look at her. He turned and slammed the front door behind him. She's not my niece anymore. I stood alone in the rain, scooping up my soaked bag with shaking hands. That day, I lost more than a roof. I lost my family, but I also began something else. For 3 years, I'd coded in secret. 3 years of pretending to care about tax loopholes and depreciation schedules, while quietly, persistently building my fraud detection algorithm. That storm, that scream, that slammed door, they were my starting line. I looked back at my aunt, still frozen in the doorway, one hand resting on the frame like she couldn't decide whether to reach out or shut me out completely. "Tia," I asked softly, "aren't you going to say anything?" She looked toward the study where I knew my uncle was already pouring himself a scotch, righteous, angry, unbothered. "Maybe," she whispered. "Maybe in a few months, when you realize this was a mistake." Then she gently closed the door. I turned away from the house I grew up in. Spanish tiles, palm-lined driveway, the Vega and Vega CPA sign glowing beside my uncle's Lexus. Then I slid into my dented old Honda and drove away from the future they'd drawn for me. My new place wasn't much. A converted guest house in a sagging Tampa suburb, roaches the size of golf balls, water that ran brown half the time. But it had fiber internet, and just enough room for my towers and monitors. The tech support job at FinSafe paid barely enough to cover rent, but I wasn't there for the money. By day, I answered tickets about frozen dashboards and broken browsers. But behind the headset, I watched. I listened. I mapped everything. The weak points, the blind spots, the gaps in their defense systems. At night, I coded. What had started as an Excel macro during audit season was evolving. Now it was a living, breathing fraud prevention protocol. 2 months in, Paul called me. "Camilla, this has gone far enough. My father says your uncle might take you back. We can still do the wedding. Just Put this fantasy behind you. I hung up, blocked his number. 6 months after I left, it happened. My system flagged a buried exploit during a routine QA scan, one their premium security vendors had completely missed. I reported it, quietly. A few days later, I was summoned to a glass-walled office overlooking downtown Tampa. Mrs. Alvarez, head of cybersecurity, folded her hands. "Can you explain how you found this?" I met her eyes. "Actually, I've been developing a new protocol. I can show you." 3 hours later, I walked out with my first development contract. Small, but it was mine. Enough to leave the support desk and go all in on the thing I truly believed in. That night, I sent my uncle and aunt an email. Subject line, "Update. I'm not coming back." The response came from my aunt's email, but every word dripped with my Uncle Mateo's tone. "Tick support to junior developer." Hardly the kind of legacy we envisioned for a Wharton graduate. "The Ramirez's asked about you at brunch. Paul is still unmarried." I didn't finish reading, just closed the email and went back to my code. The next year blurred by in lines of Python and long nights. My protocol evolved, growing smarter, faster, and far more effective than anything on the market. That first contract with FinSafe opened doors. Then came inquiries from Stripe, then Apple, then a quiet email from someone at the Department of Defense. I left the converted guest house behind and moved into a modest condo, then a bigger one, then a sleek loft in Tampa's budding tech corridor. I brought on 1 developer, then 3 more, then a team of 50. That Vega Guard Systems was born, but I kept my name off every filing. Let them think some anonymous cybersecurity prodigy was behind it. I had my reasons. My aunt's messages trickled in every few months, mostly links to Bar Association galas or articles about Paul Ramirez's political ambitions. I archived them without opening a single one. Meanwhile, offers poured in. Acquisitions, VC deals, billion-dollar buyouts. I turned them all down. I wanted control. I earned control. As headlines swirled about the mysterious founder of Vega Guard, I hired a charismatic CEO named Tyler Hunt to be the face. He was perfect for interviews and investor calls. I stayed underground coding, testing, mewing, improving. One afternoon, my chief of staff, Serena, knocked and peeked into my office. "Camilla Forbes is asking again. They're doing the 30 under 30 list. Tell them to talk to Tyler," I said, eyes still on my screen. "They don't want Tyler. They know they're publishing with or without you." I froze. "How?" I asked. "Probably that intern from FinSafe. He never signed the right ND." I leaned back in my chair, imagining my uncle's face the day he shoved my laptop into the rain. All those emails, all those warnings. "Fine," I said. "I'll do it. But I have one condition." 2 weeks later, I sat in my glass-walled office holding an advanced copy of Forbes. Across the cover in bold print, Camila Vega, 26-year-old founder of Vega Guard Systems, youngest self-made cybersecurity billionaire. My phone buzzed, my aunt's name. I watched it ring, then let it go to voicemail. If you've ever been underestimated, judged, or told your dreams were unrealistic, hit subscribe because Camila's story isn't over, and neither is yours. The Forbes article dropped on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, Uncle Mateo's accounting firm had lost 3 of its biggest corporate clients to firms using modern cybersecurity solutions. By Thursday, they'd lost 5 more. My phone. It hadn't stopped buzzing. My aunt had called 37 times. My uncle, 18. Even Paul Ramirez had tried messaging me on LinkedIn. No doubt, after hearing his father's consulting group lost 2 contracts over security concerns. Friday morning, Serena popped her head into my office. "Camilla, your uncle and aunt are downstairs." I glanced up from my workstation. "Here they brought back up," she said carefully. "The Ramarzis, both senior and junior." Of course they had. This wasn't a family visit. This was business. Desperate last-ditch business. "They're not on the schedule," I said, tightening the belt on my blazer. "No, but your uncle tried to strong-arm the security team with legal jargon. Your aunt's crying." I turned toward the window. 3 buildings now bore Vega Guard's logo. "Send them up," I said, "and activate Protocol Rosa, or to call Rosa." My personal favorite was named after my grandmother, the only one who believed in me. She secretly bought me my first computer. Now, her name was tied to a live visual demonstration of every breach we'd prevented in the last 24 hours. As the elevator climbed to the 30th floor, screens across my office lit up in sync. Attack maps, defense logs, live comparisons between compromised firms and our protected partners. The doors opened. Uncle Mateo barged in first, gripping Forbes like a legal brief. My aunt trailed behind, eyes red and tearful. The Ramarzes followed, stiff and uneasy. "How dare you!" Mateo barked. "How dare you humiliate this family like this?" "Humiliate?" I asked, eyes calm. "By creating a billion-dollar company that protects firms like yours from hemorrhaging clients." "Do go on." "You lied to us." My aunt cried. "All this time pretending to be some IT assistant." "I never lied. You just never asked." I glanced at Paul, too busy forwarding articles about Paul's career or pushing brunch invites to notice what I was building. Paul stepped forward, smile rehearsed. "Camilla, come on. Maybe we can realign our goals, merge our interests." "A merger," I echoed, then gestured at the glowing displays. "No one skips the audit," I said. "Not even family." I smiled, cool, measured. Even for family, there were limits. "We're not just any potential clients," Uncle Mateo snapped. "We're your family. You owe us." I rose from my chair slowly. "Do I?" I walked around my desk facing him directly. "Let's talk about what I owe you. Should we start with the day you tossed my things into the rain, or maybe when you told everyone at the Gulf Shore Country Club? I was having a breakdown. Or how about when you tried to have me declared legally incompetent just so I couldn't touch my trust fund?" His face darkened. "That was for your own good. You were throwing away a future." "A future you planned," I said, pressing a button on my desk. The screens behind me shifted, now showing Vagard's real-time stock value and total market valuation. The numbers blinked, bold and impossible to ignore. "You mean this?" I gestured. The company valued higher than every accounting firm in this city combined. The system protecting 80% of Fortune 500s, the technology behind a new $2 billion federal contract. My aunt collapsed into a chair, her silk scarf balled in her hand. "But why didn't you tell us?" "Were you really going to listen?" I asked, folding my arms. "I remember clearly. Uncle Mateo said I wasn't his niece anymore, that no family of his worked in it." "That was 3 years ago," she whispered. "We were worried." "No, you were worried about appearances, about the broken engagement with Paul and what the neighborhood would say." Paul stepped forward, still trying to salvage his charm. "Camilla, we can move past that. Let's grab dinner. Talk it over." I hit another button. A contract appeared on the wall-sized screen. "This is Vega Guard's standard audit agreement," I said calmly. "If your firms want to work with us, you'll sign this. The fee is $50,000, 0 per audit, non-negotiable." "50,000? Judge Ramirez stammered. "That's extortion." "Actually, it's a bargain," I replied. "Ask the clients you've lost." I returned to my desk. "Serena will send over the paperwork. Standard processing is 6 to 8 weeks. "Weeks?" Mateo shouted. "We're bleeding clients now. You should have thought of that before dismissing cybersecurity as beneath you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a board meeting. Camila Isabella Vega, my aunt said, her voice trembling. This isn't over. It is, I said, nodding to the security team near the elevator. They'll show you out. Oh, and that reserved parking spot at Vega and Vega. You might want to reassign it. The Vega names got more weight in tech now. After they left, Serena brought in a fresh coffee. Your aunt left this, she said, handing me an old photo. She wanted to give it to you herself, Serena said, placing a small frame on my desk. But she didn't have the courage. It was a photo of me at 12, hunched over my first computer in the corner of my grandparents' den, a gift from Abuela Rosa. I smiled. Of course, Uncle Mateo had hated it. Computers will rot her brain, he'd scoffed. But Abuela Rosa had leaned in close and whispered, Keep going, Mika. Then she slipped me books about logic gates and C++ under the table at family dinners. Some people build empires with spreadsheets, she told me. You'll build yours with code. I propped the photo beside the Forbes cover on my desk. On one side, a 12-year-old girl dreaming in front of a clunky monitor. On the other, a woman who turned those dreams into billions. The following weeks brought wave after wave of attempted reconciliation. My aunt emailed daily, shifting from guilt to bargaining to subtle manipulation. Uncle Mateo's firm submitted to our full audit, paid in full. Paul Ramirez sent a sleek, cherry-red Tesla to my building. I donated it to a local girls in tech nonprofit. I stayed focused. We rolled out a revolutionary new protocol integrating adaptive AI, acquired 2 bleeding-edge startups. My net worth quietly doubled, then tripled. But none of it distracted me from the date I'd circled in my calendar and heart. Abuela Rosa's birthday, the first since she passed. I visited her grave alone, placing a bundle of roses and a laminated copy of the Forbes issue beside her headstone. You were right, Abuela, I whispered. I built something bigger than they ever imagined. I stood in silence until I sensed movement behind me. She looked smaller somehow, older, not scolding, not polished, just unsure. The roses, she said gently. That computer was her idea. I know, she insisted. Said she saw something in you. I was against it. But she said you had fire, the kind she recognized. She held out another photograph. Abua and me both laughing, wires tangled between us. She left this for you in a letter. He hesitated. I was supposed to give it to you if you ever succeeded, but I didn't think you would. Not in tech. I unfolded the note in Rosa's looping script. Nakama, if you're reading this, you've already proven them wrong. I always knew you. Your parents don't know. The letter read, They never understood that true success isn't about following traditions. It's about creating new ones. Prove them wrong. Mini adelante. Then prove them right about one thing, that you're still their daughter even if you chose a different path. Love. Ayena. Abuela Rosa. I looked up at my aunt, really looked at her for the first time in years. The tight perfection of her hair and pearls couldn't hide the weariness or the weight of regret behind her carefully curated posture. I have a board meeting in an hour, I said, folding the letter with care and slipping it into my desk drawer. But maybe we could get coffee next week. Just us. Her eyes welled. I'd like that. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe it was the start of something new. That evening, I added 2 things to my office wall. Abila's letter and the photo of us at my first computer. Between them, I framed a single page of code, the original build of the protocol that started it all. My phone buzzed. Serena, your uncle's firm passed the audit, approved the client agreement. I glanced at the wall. 12-year-old me grinning at a CRT monitor. The Forbes cover. The letter that told me I'd make it. Long before I did me add a clause. They have to update the parking permit first. Vega Guard Systems has a nice ring to it because sometimes success isn't about proving them wrong. Sometimes it's about proving yourself right. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's about building your own way home. Even if it takes $1 billion bridge to get there. If you've ever been underestimated, pushed aside, or told your dreams didn't matter, I hope my story reminded you that quiet strength is still strength. I built something powerful when no one believed in me. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove me right. Leave a comment below. Share your story, your turning point, or simply a word of encouragement. I read them all. And if you're still in the middle of your journey, here's my advice. Trust your spark even when others can't see it. Subscribe and stay with me because we're just getting started and I'm not done building.